There are rules in every single sport that drive us nuts, and we cannot, for the life of us, figure out why the tall foreheads that run those leagues can't see the same thing. What are the rules in sports that should be changed, not now, but right now? We're going to dive down that rabbit hole. There are times we will watch a game and something will happen and we will want to throw something through our TV set because it is a stupid rule and every single person knows it. What are the rules that we would change? Well, we're going to go through a few of them, starting with Bubba O'Neill. Bubba, what is the first rule in sports that you would alter if you were the Lord and Master of all sports creation?
Well, I'm about to get hammered right now from CFL historians, maybe even our own Steve Milton. But securing a point for missing a field goal to me is the Rouge is ridiculous. And I'm not trying to be controversial here. Here's my thing. In sports, rewarding anyone for failure to me makes absolutely no sense. And I understand that the rules of the game, I know all about the rule and why it was produced and the rugby background of it. But in today's modern day, as I said, the bottom line is rewarding anyone for failure, rewarding a kicker. The fact that you could win a Grey Cup in a tie game and boot one and miss from 25 yards away and win a Grey Cup, to me, is absolutely ridiculous. Go ahead, boys.
Steve, you're in the CFL Hall of Fame writers wing. I'm guessing you're a defender of the Rouge, but I don't know. You take it from here. What do you think?
Well, I'm sort of. I actually, believe it or not, I'm 2/3 with Bubba on this one. Things have changed. The end zones are shorter. The kickers are better. They're artificial turf. They're using a new ball every time. Kickers are specialists. All of those kinds of things. However, the original intent of the rule, part of the rule was to not reward failure. In other words, to penalize the team for not running the ball out of the end zone for that single point. Don't forget that factor. So what I would suggest is if the ball cannot be played, no point. If the ball can be played, then and the team doesn't run out, you penalize them. And think of the possibilities on that one. Think about deciding whether to go for a field goal or a punt on the way out. Think about the punt returners in the end zone. I've been arguing for this for 30 years, that if the ball cannot be played, no single point. If the ball can be played, we already did that on field goals, right?
Yeah.
If you kick it right through the end zone, there's no single point. Not field goal kickoffs. So,
yeah.
So
I've never been a big fan of the Rouge on a missed field goal because, yes, you're rewarding failure. I don't mind it on a punt or even on a kickoff. If it goes through the end zone and no one touches it, that's all fine. But, yeah, missing a field goal and still getting something for it, that should be axed.
My view on this has always been kind of the same thing. When I first argued against this, I heard a lot of defenders say, well, it rewards, you've got territorial advantage. You're close enough to try. You've put it in there. And my answer to that was, well, should we give a single point for a pass into the end zone that the receiver gets his fingers on but can't quite haul in? Because it was really close, and we don't do that. So I'm with Bubba. I am no Rouge, but I understand the CFL contingency is definitely split on this one. Steve, we'll go to you next. What is your first rule that you would change in sports if you had the chance?
I don't know if it's the first one because I think I might go to offside in soccer on that one, but the one that kind of irks me more, and it's more national and it comes from my baseball background, is how we decide what the game-winning goal is in hockey, where we just take the plurality, right? So if the game is 8-1 and somebody scores the ninth goal and all of a sudden the other team comes back and scores 8, then the ninth goal is the game-winning goal. The way they do it in baseball is the run that puts the team ahead to stay for good. In other words,
how would you do it?
I would do it that way. The goal that puts the team ahead for good, right? So that the other team never catches up. So in the case that I just gave, if it might have been the third goal that put them up 3-2, and then they went ahead 9-2. Because you could argue that 3 makes 4, makes 5, makes 6, makes 7, makes 8. And you could say, well, you keep adding up. Well, to me, it encourages blowouts if you do that, the way that hockey does it. But it also doesn't take into account the biggest part in sport, which is turning points in the game. And turning points in the game often come from that first one up there. So I would change the way a game-winning goal is changed, is recorded. Goal that puts you up for good.
Rick, you agree?
Yeah, totally. I mean, and Steve laid it out well. You know, it's a 1-1 hockey game. All of a sudden, it's 2-1, and then before you know it, it's 6-1. The other team comes back and scores 3 goals. It's 6-4, and the game-winning goal is that 5th goal, which at the time when it was scored wasn't huge, but at the end of the game turned out to be the last goal that put that team eventually ahead. But yeah, it should be the goal that thrust that team onto that winning plateau, regardless of the score at the time.
Bubba?
How about just blowing it up completely? Who cares what the game-winning goal was? I mean, we all know that in mind, but that's actually a statistic in the National Hockey League. I mean, you look down columns and you see GWG. I mean, that just gives agents one more reason to brag about their players that they represent, and that these are marketing tools. Well, you had 20 game-winning goals this season. Who cares? I mean, it's
not the way it's set up now. It doesn't matter. If it was real game-winning goals, it might matter.
Yeah.
How come we don't have GWT? How come in football we don't have game-winning touchdown?
Good point.
Right.
And we don't talk about that. It's not important. But in baseball and hockey, all of a sudden it's become a and especially for the new people using a lot of the new statistics right there, it's become a clutch statistic. And demographics is what I'm looking at in terms of hockey. And I just don't understand it. To me, why it's such a big deal. To me, you score goals or you set up goals, and then let's move on from there.
I'll add one other thing to that before we move on, and that is a pet peeve, and it ties into this, is that when they give the 3 stars and there's an overtime game, almost always the guy who scores the game-winning goal gets the first star, and he may have been terrible all game and done nothing else, and the puck ricochets off his rear end and goes in, and suddenly he's the first star. No, but that's a different discussion for a different day.
Well, the idea is to win.
The idea is to win. Rick Zamprin, your first rule that you would change?
Without a doubt, scrapping the NFL's overtime rule. It is one of the worst in sports history. I mean, a coin toss decides who gets the ball first. If that team scores a touchdown, the game is over. If the team scores a field goal, then the other team is allowed to get the ball. But if that team concedes a safety or there's a safety in the game, they lose as well. It is so confusing. What they should do is, hey, you want to have the coin toss? That's fine. Vegas will be happy with the coin toss bettors. But then play a full 10 or 15-minute period, and it's a total score. Continue the game until that 15 minutes is up, and the team with the most points is the victor.
Steve, I've never understood why the NFL is so dead set against both teams just not having a turn with the ball, because look, let's say someone scores a touchdown on the first play, the other team gets the ball. How long is the game extended then? 5 minutes, maybe?
Yeah.
And it's 5 minutes of only excitement that people are happy to see. I've never understood the downside to this.
No, I agree, and look, it comes under this general heading: the NFL is stupid when it comes to certain things. And they're not stupid in marketing. They're not stupid in power plays. They're not stupid in controlling, believe it or not, their players. But they are stupid when it comes to on the field. And you could look at it, and I think you could make this great case that almost every single really good advancing rule or concept, like more open offense, has come from another place, either the CFL or college.
Mm-hmm.
Does anyone disagree with Rick on that one, or are we unanimous, Bubba?
Yeah, I think we're unanimous, but I will say this. I think there has been changes within the last couple of years to the overtime rule, which I like a little bit more. I mean, there was a time where you could directly say that, whoever wins the coin toss gets the best opportunity at winning. Now, it doesn't guarantee you win, but I think the fact that they change it now, that if you get a field goal, there is a return of possession, and the fact that you can that team that gave up a field goal does have an opportunity, whereas before, if you kicked a field goal, it was over. I think we got a lot of people all fired up. There was an AFC championship game 2 years ago between the Patriots and the Chiefs where this really, really came up, and people wanted to see the Patriots have to defend the likes of the Kansas City Chiefs. I also do believe, though, in some ways, that football is played on an offense and a defense. And if you can't stop that offense in overtime and you lose a game because you gave up a touchdown, well, shame on you, not so much on the rules.
Yeah. Somehow, I don't know, guys. Every time I look at something in the NFL, I think betting's tied to this somewhere. I haven't figured out how it is on this one.
But
I don't
Steve, your point about money and marketing for the NFL is bang on. They are marketing geniuses, but come to this overtime thing. Team A scores with a touchdown in overtime. Is any advertiser upset about being the advertiser right after that when you know that not one person is leaving their television for the next few minutes because they want to see if it's going to that right there is the primo advertising slot. I have no idea why they don't use it.
Yeah.
But guys, is it not the best part? And again, here I am kind of supporting this overtime rule. But isn't the best part of overtime the sudden death aspect of it? And I think that's still created in this sense with these types of rules, as opposed to playing a full-out quarter, which in itself could end up tied again.
It is sudden death, Bubba, in a sense, if you give both teams the ball. Because the way football is set up, where you have an offense and defense, and the two groups are not the same, would be like saying we're going to flip a coin in an NHL overtime game, and for the first 2 minutes, one team has to play with their sticks upside down using the knobs of their sticks.
Well,
and it's sudden death, but that would be stupid. We'd say that would be stupid because one team doesn't have a real chance to win.
I think a better example might be because of as Bubba says, the dichotomy of offense and defense. Baseball has exactly the same thing. Would you allow a home run in the top of an inning to decide the game? Are you kidding?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Of an extra inning? Are you kidding?
Rule change number 4 that we would put on our list will be my first one, and that is goalies in hockey who leave their crease to play the puck should be treated exactly the same as any other player and should be allowed to be hit, checked, whatever else. When you leave the sanctity of your crease and the safety of your crease, you just become another skater.
Yeah, I'll jump on that one. I wholeheartedly agree with that because, I mean, let's face it, these goalies are built like gladiators in the first place to stop the puck. They have triple the amount of protection that any other person on the ice has, including a full face mask. These guys are athletes too. Don't let them fool you that, they get tapped on, the shoulder or the hip and they're flopping all around. They know what they're doing. They should be fair game. Yes, they're one of the most, if not the most important position on the ice. They're the last line of defense, literally. But hey, if you venture out of your crease, if you're at the face-off dot or get rid of the trapezoid and you're in the corner, you're fair game.
Sounds good in principle. Till you take a look.
Until they all get hurt.
Until you take it away, the look at hockey has handled itself. How long before it just becomes a play to get the guy? You can't trust that kind of mentality. It's just why you can't say let's have a little bit of interference at the blue line.
But wouldn't the answer to that,
Steve, let the grab again?
Steve, wouldn't the answer to that be then that, well, if you don't want your goalie to be hit, have him stay in the crease. Don't play the puck, and that also might create more offense.
But that's part of
they say that it's part of the open. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm just saying that is part of the offense, is that you had goaltenders like Martin Brodeur that were particularly very adept at playing the puck outside of the crease. And I think you have to protect the goaltender. In a sense, the goaltender, not in terms of responsibilities, but in terms of importance, is like a quarterback in the National Football League. And we do hold our protection of these players to a higher standard because they're so very important. They are very limited in terms of how good they are, and you need to protect them. I mean, the last thing you need is is a moron like Milan Lucic running over Ryan Miller. You remember that a couple of years ago, and that was one of the most obvious things. I mean, he didn't even try to play the puck. He wanted to run over the goaltender, who was one of the best in the National Hockey League at the time, for a decided advantage for the Bruins. I think it's absolutely, to have the goaltender as fair game, to me, is absolutely ridiculous.
But who was the goalie, Bubba, that just before the season stopped? It was the game. Of course, it was the game with David Ayers, where the Carolina goalie came out almost to the blue line and got smoked by a Leaf player who never saw him, and that initially was considered a major penalty. And you're saying, well, wait a second, if you're out there doing that, why couldn't he hit you?
Well, because when you look at that play, he was elbowed in the head, and that's against the rules, and knocked him out. In terms of a concussion, it was David Mrazek. And to me, the player, I think, was penalized at the time, and rightfully so. I mean, again, I think these are goaltenders that, yes, they're every other player. They're the 6 guys on the ice, but I do believe they need to be held to a higher standard in terms of being protected.
Yeah, that situation you're thinking about was, say, it was Peter Mrazek who got decked by Kyle Clifford at Scotiabank, and we all know what happened after that. David Ayres comes in, and one of the most embarrassing, if not the most embarrassing moment in Leafs history.
Yeah, but it also was a good argument for why goalies should be allowed. We want more David Ayres, don't we? Unless you're a Leaf fan.
Yeah.
There's 4. We got more next time, so come back for that. In the meantime, down below, hit subscribe. Also hit the little bell so you get notified every time one of the home game videos comes out with Rick and Steve and Bubs and I. Thanks for watching. We'll be back with more rules we want to change next time.